Nigeria a whole week or more to come out publicly to declare that, oh, it abides by the rule of law. Why must it take the Central Bank of Nigeria more than a week? Because the ruling of the Supreme Court is final. Section 287 of the 1999 Constitution says that anything that comes from our courts must be obeyed because we operate a rule of law regime and a democratic dispensation. Nobody is above the laws of the land. However, the Central Bank of Nigeria, in being tardy, hesitant in coming out publicly to address the ruling of the Supreme Court, created a situation whereby the banks were confused. The banks refused to give old notes as directed by the Supreme Court. Most of the banks did not even open their doors. Most of them even said, until they heard from the Central Bank of Nigeria, they will not act. It got to a ridiculous situation whereby state governors were beginning to act as governors of the Central Bank. They kept saying in many states, in Lagos, in Ogun, and elsewhere, in Kaduna, that people should go ahead and spend the old notes because the Supreme Court has spoken. Some of them even spoke before the Supreme Court. So there's a subtext of politics out there. And then the CBN did not speak until the presidency issued a statement to say that, look, we have not told the AGF or the CBN or anybody ever since we assumed office in 2015 to disrespect court orders, to violate Section 287 of the 1999 Constitution. What President Muhammadu Buhari did in that regard was to throw all the officers who worked with him, who disobeyed the rule of law, who disobeyed court orders. What he did was to disown them. That is the simple, common, intelligent interpretation. Now that the CBN, on the heels of that, now suddenly came out through Issa Abdulmumin, Director of Corporate Communications, to now issue the statement that we have been waiting for. Yesterday, I was saying that Soludo is not CBN governor. Not many people will rely on the hearsay from Governor Soludo of Anambra State because he said, oh, a bankers committee meeting had been held. He also had a telephone conversation. Nigerians could not have relied on a telephone conversation. That would be hearsay. That would be busybody information. So what the CBN has now done is to offer us clarity. And I hope that the clarity will save the situation. The clarity would be a strong signal to the banks, and that the banks will not come around to say that the CBN, as the regulator, has not communicated to them. But do we need all of this confusion? Clearly, we do not. The average thinking, reasonable man is likely to think, oh, so now that the APC has won the presidency, and Bola Tinubu is the president-elect, now the All Progressives Congress, they are now having their way. What's his name? The governor of Kaduna State, Nasir Rufai, can now say, oh, okay, I told them, I showed them, we're in charge. And Tinubu can say, well, didn't I say this was about me? And now I've outsmarted them. Now, that kind of perception, that kind of thinking, how does it help Nigeria? Because people will just say, they take us for a ride. They do what they like with us. Nigeria is, as Wole Soyinka pointed out in one of his famous plays, an opera, want your CE. So if it is your time, you want your CE as you like. And the people are served the shortest end of the stick. This is where we are. This is the issue, in my view.
I'm a huge fan of Eric Cantona, Manchester United great. When he had his ordeal in the 90s, the hoo-ha Cantona saga, and he served his suspension, and journalists wanted to hear from him, he said something very profound. He said when a seagull chases a trawler, it's because it thinks there are sardines in the water. And that's what is happening here. You'll figure out who's the seagull and the trawler and the sardine in this story. We all know how this started. All of this was politics, pure and simple. People had money they wanted to use for elections stuck in their homes, and a policy was made in the best interest of our currency because of mounting inflation, and these people did not like it, the politicians. And when they did not like it, they did everything possible. They accused the CBN governor of terrorism. They said all sorts. We all remember what happened at the airport because it was not rightly reported in the media, how it was tried to be picked up in the airport. All of that ordeal passed. They negotiated with the president. The president said, okay, I'll make concessions, give me some time. They felt, who is the president talking? So they disobeyed the president, and they went straight ahead to the courts. Even before the Supreme Court gave ruling, some of these governors were caught on camera saying, don't worry, they will rule in our favor. Was there something they knew that we did not know? And all of a sudden, yes, it came in their favor. We should respect the Supreme Court. And it's so easy for the presidency to come out and write letters that we did not say you should not respect the Supreme Court. Oh, yes. Just like they respected the Court of Appeal order to release Nnamdi Kanu. Just like they've also respected the courts on El Zakzaki's case. I think with that, it's so easy to cite convenience of insecurity in the country. But you see, we've set a precedence, and I hope we follow it through. Let's challenge the Supreme Court for everything because it favors us. As a bondholder, probably someday soon, when the CBN raises interest rates, I can probably look at some of my friends that are governors and say, please go to the courts on my behalf and arrange boys because my bonds are affected because of the increase in interest rates. I think we'll probably challenge that way. Since we now take everything, monetary policy, to the to the Supreme Court because of our political exigencies. That's the country we've become. Is this going to solve the problem? Time will tell. We have just deepened our confusion because of our political slants and what favors us. But please, politicians should remember that you build a country on the foundation of integrity, truth, and collective fairness. And most of the time about collective fairness, it will not work in your favor. And let's build this country to stand the test of time. You see, anybody that goes ahead to celebrate triumphalism, the question I'll ask you in the long scheme of things, what have you gained? The electoral body, INEC, is promising to release documents required by